Well, good morning, Pastor Dan. On the porch, another cup of coffee. Hey, a little colder today yet. Uh, my heart has just been stirred with this thought and this message. Um, we look at what's going on often and we want more of God. Some of us do, some of us don't. The thought here is the word that just keeps stirring is they that thirst and hunger. Are we hungry for God and are we thirsting for his righteousness in our life? Jesus' promise is that we'll be made full. Now, we equate with our natural environment, and the Lord teaches from the natural and shares what it's like here on earth and then translates it to the heavenly principles. Now, earth is just a shadow of God's goodness that's been corrupted. Uh, so it's not heaven. Earth is not heaven. But there are spiritual kingdom principles that we need to learn. Now, when you're hungry, how many of us have been so hungry for food? In America, there's still people who do not eat well. And around the world, there's people who are starving, and our hearts go out to that. And hopefully, you can find good organizations that the majority of the income goes to help people who are needing food because hunger pain is really, Now, I only really experience hunger in a fast, maybe. And then that doesn't last too many days, and then my stomach calms down, and so I'm okay. Thirsting now. Thirsting. Well, we've all experienced some thirst, and heat of the day or so on and so forth. Getting dehydrated is a dangerous thing. We don't realize how dangerous dehydration can be. So in the natural, there's a need for food. There's a need for water, and you can only go so long without it, and then things begin to happen in our body, and it can have long-term consequences that are not good. Now take that, move it to the spiritual dynamics. Are we hungry for God? Do we thirst for the Spirit of God and His righteousness? That's a different story. If we're hungry, God's promised to fill us. So I look at that and I think about, why is it, Lord, so many of us are not uh, hungering for you? And the answer I get in my heart and my spirit is because we're so full of other things. Okay, so I'll take another natural approach to this. Go to the buffet. We don't go to buffets hardly at all anymore. Too expensive? Nah, we don't need to eat that much. We quit eating that much long ago. But the salad bars are set up so that if you hit those things first, you may not get to eat too much of the other stuff later. And so if you're too full of the salad bar and all the prep food in the line, the restaurant wins because you're not going to have enough room to take and eat too much of the expensive stuff. So often our life is just, we're consuming so much. We're consumers. We just consume so much, but it's not the things that are always healthy. So one of the things we can do is the fast. Now I get it that some people have physical situations. When I was fighting with diabetic issues, fast brought me from a pre condition into a full blown condition. I was about 17 days into this fast, and I woke up in such pain, and I could hear very strongly, make an appointment with your doctor and break your fast. Well, if any of you have known what a fast that's extending more than a couple of days, you have to kind of break out of that carefully. So liquids and that. Of course, my granddaughter was very young and she loved Otter Pops, frozen Otter Pops, popsicles. And Papa didn't mind sharing those with her. But by the time I got in um, to see the doctor within a few days, she said I had gone from pre to full blown diabetic condition. And since then, every time I get everything balanced, and if I go on a fast, it seems like I whack it out again. So I get it that there are legitimate physical reasons, but we've learned to adapt our fast. Our fast now consists of, change of diet and certain things not ate, more like a Daniel fast, but it's more extended. Sometimes we blow it and go off of it, but it's not a good thing. The Lord's been gracious. My blood pressure and my blood sugars have been back into the normal range by the glory of God and by some effort of following the discipline. But here it is, the fast is needed. One of the things that we do around our house is we constantly are having fasts from any television. And they may last for months. And we didn't realize how hard that was until we started. And by the third, fourth day, it's like, what are we going to do? Well, you got the Bible. And then we started listening to more worship music. And then we would break into watching some ministers and messages on the YouTube. But again, my wife, she likes doing puzzles on her Kindle, and she's gone on puzzle fasts where she gets and says, oh, that's the time dedicated to the Lord. So we're talking about setting aside some of our routine as well as our diet and actual physically not eating. If you're capable of going without food with no medical ramifications, then pray about it, talk to your doctor about it. Fasting can be very good because it can reset the body. But I don't want just a physical benefit. I'm looking about getting more hungry for God than even the basic necessities. And we've got a lot in our life that does not require, it's not required. So what? You've played this game and you won all these different levels. What does that do for you in eternity? Probably not much. Probably nothing. Could even be a hindrance to great rewards in the life yet to come because we got too busy doing games. Well, if that upsets you about the games, you probably got an idol. Here's the thing. Anything that I got to give up that I really struggle with and I get mad about, it's becoming an idol. It needs to be brought down low and let God be exalted and raised up. I truly believe when we're more hungry for God, more thirsty for his righteousness, he answers and he will pour out more of himself into us. But if we're full of the world, if we're full of monetary pursuit, if we're full of leisure, or we're full of just filling our bellies, we're not going to get anything from God because we're going to be too full. So I really encourage you to take some evaluation about where you're at and what type of fast. And we're circumcising our heart for the many things that are going on and saying, no, that we're cutting that out. This is more important. So when you begin to really get hungry and thirsty for God and you got no room for him, start laying some things aside. Redeem the time. And that means you're going to have to trade and spend some of your time, your leisure time maybe for God. And every one of us need to see what they should do, not what Pastor Dan or Pastor Maria or Pastor Des does, but God's calling you to that can give you more time with him. Because if we don't hunger and thirst after God and his righteousness, there will be problems. Then those problems creep up. Jesus said the cares of this life, the needs, the necessities will be fulfilled by God when we seek God, his kingdom, and his righteousness. Then all those needs will be met. Unfortunately, many of us get caught up in the greeds, and we want to keep the greeds, and so we have to spend more and more of our energy and effort and time to keep the greeds instead of the needs. Is this a hard message? Yeah, I'm sure it is. I didn't like it when I first had to encounter some changes because I really wanted whatever I could get from me. It was all about me. But then as we mature in the Lord, we realize it's all about him. Because he's already dealt with the all about me by dying for me and offering me a place in his kingdom. And so he'll take care of my basics. And sometimes he'll give me the desires of my heart. I've seen him do that. But that's not the pursuit anymore. The pursuit is trying to pursue God, to seek him with all of our heart and all of our mind, and to love him with all of our being, instead of just what his benefits are. And unfortunately, in the church today, there's a lot of people, all they want is what they're going to get from Jesus. And that's sad because they're missing a joyful life here and now. Father, help us to reprioritize our life. Put you as the number one. Have no other gods before thee. Not to take your name in vain. Lord, that we claim we're yours and yet we live like the world. Help us change our lives to align with your word and to be more like Jesus, to deny ourselves, pick up our cross, and follow Jesus. In doing that, we'll find the blessing and fullness in this life.